The Syria debate has been echoing across the media landscape, and especially on the web, which opens the dialogue to far more voices than, say, television ever could. James Fallows, national correspondent of The Atlantic, has been immersed in that debate, and he joins me now here in the studio. Jim, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So you are skeptical of intervening in Syria, but talk for a moment about the reactions and rebuttals that you've been posting on your blog, including one case from a military officer and an officer's wife.
I think this is a kind of journalism that really wasn't possible when you and I started here a generation ago, which is to have in real time a range of opinion, not just the kind of just views or gut visceral expression you'd get in the old newspaper letters to the editor stage, but people who in real time, they're with the military, they're in the Middle East, they're saying, here's been the effect of on our army of being at war for a dozen years, here's why they think we should strike or not. So I think it's been, to me, a very informative real-time debate.
Well, let me play devil's advocate, because you're opening this up to readers. Smart readers, to be sure, but you're the journalist, you're the expert, you worked in the Carter White House, you've been a correspondent in China. Why should I, as a reader, care what your readers think as opposed to what James Fallows thinks?
So there's a useful kind of test of the market. One thing I deliberately don't do on my part of the Atlantic site, everybody else does, is I don't have unmoderated comments, because my impression is that really is a race to the bottom and people start yelling at each other.
So you're not totally opening up to moderate.
No, but I'm saying that I'm able to get probably a couple hundred messages a day from people around the world who have informed views, and enough of them are interesting that I feel as if this is a new way to add to the debate. Again, what we have done, you and I, in our past journalistic careers, is go out and interview people, and you report the things that seem worthwhile, the significant things representing a range of opinion. I think this is a easier, higher volume, and potentially more valuable way of doing the same thing.
You posed a series of questions in your writing about, such as, what is the administration's theory of victory? What could go wrong if there were to be military strikes? Have the media in general been diligent in posing those questions?
I think it's always the case that the media, the political system, and individuals, we overreact to the last mistake we made. And so the mistakes about Iraq are very much in people's minds, so there's a sort of hyper-criticism.
And you're not minimizing those mistakes.
Oh, no, they were disastrous, and that was something that many people, including me ahead of time, said, look, we're just doing this too rashly. So Syria is different from Iraq, but I think the media are asking more questions now. And the odd thing about the administration's case is that it's all saying there is a problem, which everyone agrees with. It's the connection between that problem and the proposed solution, where I think the most interesting debate is happening now.
Well, but, a lot of what I read, a lot of the skepticism that I read, kind of embedded in the straight reporting. You saw it in the reporters' questions to President Obama at that news conference in Russia on Friday, and also in the commentariat, was this a good or bad move politically? Is he going to be lame duck if he loses his vote? Why did he go to Congress? Has there been more about American politics and less about, the U.S. response to what had been seen as a red line in Assad's use of chemical weapons?
Sure, and this is a timeless reality of D.C.-based journalism over as long as there have been such things, which is that most people here like politics, and it's always easier to convert something to its political ramifications than to know about the actual substance.
Who's going to win? Who's going to lose?
Yes,
who's up,
exactly.
Who's down?
I remember, back in the Reagan days, there was some military strike he did, and all the stories the next day were, what does this mean for Reagan's popularity?
Right. Well,
that's part of the story, but there's more to it.
Are pundits still important? I was really struck at one of the congressional hearings on Syria the other day when a Republican congressman asked Secretary of State John Kerry about Tom Friedman of the New York Times, who opposes intervention, or at least has another idea about how to do it. And Kerry said, well, I often agree with Tom Friedman, but not in this case. So pundits
again,
still matter?
Showing there is no new day. There was a famous cartoon from the New Yorker in the 1930s. In a congressional hearing, somebody say, bowing to no one in my respect for Walter Lippmann, I still think. So it's been around for a long time. I think that, again, a plus of this media age, along with its many minuses, is there's a range of opinions. There's people who have the megaphone of a regular column, but now you and I can get messages from people who say, I'm a serving colonel in the U.S. Marine Corps, and this is what I see. I'm somebody who knows about chemical weapons, and this is what I see. So I think there's just a bigger range.
When President Obama pulled back from the brink of ordering airstrikes at the last minute, you posted something in The Atlantic right away. Then an hour later, you said you'd read the transcript and you posted again.
Yes.
So we kind of got to watch your thought process in a way that it would be hard to imagine a decade ago.
And real-time anything is messy, including the real-time factor there, which is our blog software crashed at the wrong moment. So I'd spent about an hour writing something that just went away. So I did a sort of 5-minute recap. And I think, again, this is good, that transparency has its defects, your previous segment about Anthony Weiner, but that in general, institutions of all kinds now can't just assert their authority anymore. And it probably does better to show people, show your evidence, show your homework, show how you're reaching your conclusions.
Before we go, these are tough times for magazines. You're doing something interesting through Atlantic. You were out in Sioux Falls, and you're going out to visit small town America.
Yeah.
What's that about?
A project called American Future is a version of the American road trip, but by small airplane. My wife and I are flying around the country, seeing economic and cultural stories around the country.
And it's been instructive for you?
Very much so.
All right. There we see it up on the screen. We'll look for that. Jim Fallows, thanks very much for joining our conversation.
My pleasure. Congratulations on your show.
I appreciate it.